going to call the meeting to order.
Les here? Do you have
Oh,
enough,
that's
do you have
true.
enough members, Dan? Is
Is
Les here?
Les here yet?
Yes, Les is on.
Les
Okay.
is on. Okay, so then I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Dan, if you could go through whatever you need to go through to for the hybrid stuff.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. It's the Commission on the City Plan meeting for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I just remind everyone the meeting is being audio and video recorded. And for the public hearing portion of the meeting, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Frank.
Thank you, Dan. So this is the Commission on City Plan meeting, Tuesday, May 17th. We've just been called to order. The roll call has been taken. We do have a quorum, myself, Les King, and Michael Lahan, so we have a quorum. First order of business would be an approval of the minutes from the March 29th, 2022 special meeting. If I could have a motion to do that.
So moved.
We have a motion and I guess
I'll second it.
and a second.
Oh,
Yeah.
Les.
Go
Thank
Les. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so those minutes have been approved. Any communications, Deanna? I can't
don't
talk
have any.
tonight.
It's okay. I don't think I have any. Dan, any communications? I don't think we have any.
No, we don't have any.
Thank you.
Okay, so under new business, we have a public hearing and potential action on number one, a special permit for 22-01, 722 Boswell Avenue, also known as 720-722 Boswell Avenue. This is a request for a special permit for proposed site development, land disturbance activities in the floodway, which are associated with the reconfiguration and upgrades of the existing gas station and associated convenience store. An application and property of M&T Land LLC, Tahir Hussein owner. This is Assessor's Map 79, Block 1, Lot 2, Zone GC. So are you going to present that, Deanna? or
Nope,
is-
Dan is actually, these are
Dan?
both the proposals that he prepared the memos for, so he's actually going to do the presentations on them. I just wanted to really quickly, before we open the public hearing on that, we'll need a motion, let you know that the application was received in the office on February 10th, 2022, which means it was officially received by the commission on March 18th, 2022, and the public hearing must be opened by May 22nd, 2022. So we're within that time frame. I know it's been a little while since it was received, but I wanted to put those dates on the record.
So I guess the first thing we need to do is have a motion to open the public hearing.
Yes.
So moved.
Yes. We got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is now open. And Dan, if you want to take it from there for the time being.
Sure, Frank. We have David McKay from Boundaries for the applicant. Dave, you want me to turn the screen over to you?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, if you want to go ahead and make the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is David McKay with Boundaries LLC, here on behalf of the owner and applicant M&T Land LLC. The application is for improvements to the existing fueling station and convenience store at 722 Boswell Avenue, here in red. The property has existing fueling pumps right here and an existing 590 square foot convenience store. And our proposal is to expand this convenience store from 590 square feet to 2,100 square feet, and also add a canopy over the fueling islands. You can see right now it's just a concrete pad with the pumps, cars parked next to them, and also some reconfiguration of the parking area to reduce impervious pavement on the property, add landscaping around the property, and provide compensatory storage for the proposed building expansion, and also a rain garden for retention of the stormwater runoff from the clean roof surfaces that are going to be constructed.
Dave, I hate to interrupt, but just for a matter of orientation, can you tell me what's across the street from this property on Boswell there? Where are we looking?
Yes, right here, this is Boswell Avenue running north and south. This is Berkeley Road here. Manny's Pizza Restaurant is right here, and the Norwich Auto Wash is right here.
Okay, and what's that right across the street?
That's an abandoned restaurant.
That's the Wonder
Is
Bar.
that Wonder Bar?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is the aerial photo of the project area. I'm going to switch quickly to Google Earth Street View. Is that showing up on your screens?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so then this is just a view from Boswell Avenue looking into the property. The existing pump islands right here, existing sign here, and then the 590 square foot convenience store. And then over here, Berkeley Road and the other curb cut to access the property. Now I'll switch to the site plans and start at the beginning. Okay, this is updated since the last submission to include the approval letter from the Inland Wetlands Commission. So we did receive that in April. First sheet here is the existing conditions survey. The orientation is different from the aerial photo. Boswell Avenue is running at the bottom of the page. So north is the right-hand side of the screen. The dark gray line through the property is the limit of the FEMA floodway. And you can see that runs right through the existing convenience store. The finished floor is 90.05 and the flood elevation in this area is 91. And then fueling pad and pump islands here. And the remainder of this portion of the property is paved. Next sheet is the demolition and E&S plan. The areas with the light hatched lines through them are areas where there's going to be demolition work. Existing building is going to be removed along with the concrete sidewalk and pads around that building. Existing pavement is going to be removed in these areas to allow for the new landscaped islands here and here. And then these existing parking spaces will all be removed and reconfigured to allow for the construction of the rain garden and some additional landscaping. And then some pavement for where the building is going to be expanded. This is the overall site plan for the property. You can see here the outline of the former building, 590 square feet, and then the new proposed 70 by 30, 2,100 square foot building. That requires 8.4 parking spaces. We've provided 9 on the property, reconfiguring their location to allow for the elimination of this paved area. We have 3 parking spaces here, along with our accessible parking space, 3 more parking spaces over here, and then an additional 3 spaces right here. Dumpster pad is going to be located right here. And then you can see that the existing PVC stockade fence is going to be removed and replaced with some landscape buffers around the limit of the parking area and also the limit of this parking area and our landscaped islands here. And then this oval shape here is where the proposed rain garden is going to go. And that's going to collect runoff from the expanded roof surface of the building and also from the new canopy over the fueling islands. Okay, now we are at our utility sheet. There are existing utilities serving the property: sewer, water, our access from Berkeley Road. Right now, the property has a fuel oil tank used for heating. That's going to be eliminated, and a new gas service from the natural gas main on Berkeley Road is going to be installed. And then electric will be replaced and coming from the same pole that it does now at the rear of the property. Okay, this is the grading and stormwater management sheet. As mentioned, the new canopy is going to drain through some subsurface piping around the rear of the building into the rain garden. And the new roof area will also connect to that system and drain to the rain garden here, which is sized to hold greater than 1 inch of runoff from these roof surfaces on site. In the event of storms larger than 1 inch, it'll flow through the riprap spillway and drain into this catch basin at the rear of the property, similar to how it does at this time. And then the remainder of the parking lot, the existing flow patterns are going to be maintained. The property slopes from north to south, and there's a concrete gutter at the southernmost curb cut that drains into a catch basin, which then connects into the drainage easement at the rear of the property. And that's going to be maintained as well. So the new roof surfaces are going to drain to the rain garden, and then the remaining paved surfaces are going to drain to the catch basin over here as they do now. And then from a grading perspective, as mentioned before, you can see the gray line here, which represents the limits of the FEMA floodway. And that goes through the existing building and then also through our proposed building, because we are holding this corner of the existing building and expanding outside of the floodway. So we've cut back the grade here within the floodway by about 1 foot. And what that does is provides us with compensatory storage in excess of the volume of the building that is displaced due to the dry floodproofing. In order to construct this building within the limits of the floodway or floodplain, it has to be dry flood proofed, and we've chosen to dry flood proof it 1 foot above the flood elevation. So flood elevation 91, our finished floor elevation is 90.05, and the foundation is going to be set with the top at 92, so 1 foot above finished floor. We have 2 doors into the building, one in front and then a side entrance to access the utility areas. And those doors in the foundation wall, they're going to have channel sections cast adjacent to them, and flood planks, which are going to be stored in the building, would get dropped into these channel sections up to the top of the foundation to make sure that no flood water is able to enter the building. We have the flood damage and prevention notes here, and added some discussion about the requirement for the dry flood proofing, which I've mentioned 1 foot above the base flood elevation. And then also a requirement that the owner shall submit a FEMA floodproofing certificate for non-residential structures prior to applying for the certificate of zoning compliance. So that certificate will ensure that the floodproofing, the foundation wall, and those flood planks are on site, and that the foundation is cast as high as it is supposed to be. Okay. All right. Lastly, for the site plans, we have the lighting plan. There's going to be lighting under the new canopy that'll replace the existing pole mounted lights that are adjacent to the pump islands. Lighting above the 2 doorways, and the side door also provides adequate lighting for the parking spaces here. New pole mounted light here and here and here, and these all provide lighting for these parking spaces. This light gray line here is the limit of the lighting, the iso-illuminance contour. And you can see that there's no trespass onto the abutting property, the Norwich Auto Wash, or their driveway to the rear of the building. And here we have our erosion control notes and details, and also demonstration of the fuel delivery turning movements. The fuel truck's able to access the property and get to the tanks from either entrance off of Boswell Avenue without conflicting with the pumps and without crossing the double yellow lines. And then the remainder of the sheets are just the standard details for the site work with the parking line striping, sidewalks, accessible signage, curbing, the bollards. Here is the existing sign that's going to be maintained as part of this project.
Is that price on the gas going to be maintained?
You know, it didn't seem so good when I took the picture, but now I'd give anything for it to go back.
I think we ought to add a condition that the gas prices can never go over $3 a gallon.
And then finally, the Norwich Public Utilities details and our storm trenching details for the dumpster enclosure and the landscape planting details. All right, next we have our proposed building elevation drawings. Zoom in here. This is what we are starting with right now. It's a 590 square foot convenience store with the concrete block walls on either side, and then the stockade fencing extending on either side. And we're proposing a more of a Cape style building with the foundation wall set at elevation 92 and plenty of windows on the front, which provides the cashier with a good view of the pump islands out the front of the building.
You say the color is going to be that blue? I'm just curious if you don't mind answering that.
That's the goal.
Okay.
They want a blue building. There's always some variability with the screens and printing and everything, but they do like blue
Okay.
for the building. Yeah, so inside we have the cashier, sales area, coolers, and a freezer, and then the utility area. And similar to the foundation wall being set at elevation 92 for the top, all of the utilities in the utility area will be at 92 or higher, which works pretty well with the existing floor elevation of 90, which is going to be maintained anyways. So everything's going to be at least 2 feet above the floor to meet the flood zone standards. And this is the west elevation, rear of the building, facing the driveway to the Norwich Auto Wash that goes behind the building. And our south elevation, which faces the Norwich Auto Wash and some of the parking for the property. And then the north elevation, which has the employee access, and this faces Berkeley Road and the accessible parking and a few other parking spaces. And next sheet is the proposed canopy. This is Gulf's new branding. So that will be this will be the canopy branding that they're going to be installing. And then for a local example, 275 Washington Street in Norwich has this new Gulf branding on it.
The little one on Washington Street.
Yes, just near the hospital and
Yeah.
NFA. All right. So I will switch back to the site plan sheet and then run through the special permit criteria and how this proposal meets those requirements. So as mentioned before, this is in the general commercial zoning district, and the proposal meets the bulk requirements and the setbacks of the zone. And from that perspective is zoning compliant. Now, it's also a special permit for because of the proposed use and existing use on the property, and also because of the activity within the floodway. And per zoning regulation 3.4.5, no encroachments, including fill, new construction, substantial improvements, repairs to substantially damaged structures and other developments shall be permitted within the floodway unless certification with supporting technical data by a registered professional engineer is provided, demonstrating through hydrologic and hydraulic analyses performed in accordance with standard engineering practice that encroachment shall not result in any 0.00 feet increase in flood levels during occurrence of the base flood discharge. Now, in order to meet that requirement, we consulted with Race Coastal Engineering. They specialize in floodplain modeling, and they prepared a HEC-RAS model for the proposed development, and comparing the existing model to the proposed model, and found that we have a 0.00 foot increase as a result of the development. And that certification letter and their HEC-RAS supporting documentation was submitted to the city engineer with the special permit application. So we meet that criteria. And then the next criteria specific to the floodplain is in section 3.4.7.5.3. And that requires that all new construction and substantial improvements of non-residential structures, including mixed-use structures, shall meet the following. If the building, however, for insurance-ready purposes, floodproofing must provide protection to 1 foot above the base flood elevation to receive rating credit. So now, together with attendant utilities and sanitary facilities, be designed so that the structure is floodproof to 1 foot above the base flood elevation, with walls substantially impermeable to the passage of water, and with structural components having the capability of resisting hydrostatic and hydrodynamic loads and effects of buoyancy. A professional engineer or architect licensed in the state of Connecticut shall certify to the Commission on the City Plan and the building inspector that the construction of the building will comply with this section and other requirements outlined in the building code for the construction of buildings in a floodplain. And I discussed how the foundation wall is going to be set at elevation 92, which is 1 foot above the base flood elevation. And then in order to maintain that dry flood proofing, the flood planks will be installed at each of the doorways in the case of a flood event. And then, so once the building permit application is submitted with the building plans, the plans will include foundation details to demonstrate that the building is protected from flotation during a flood as well. And then we've included the requirement to submit the dry flood proofing certificate for non-residential structures after that foundation has been complete. So that is how we meet the special permit criteria for the construction of the structure and the reconstruction of the structure within the floodway. Now, our next section is section 6.3 regarding garages and filling stations, motor vehicle sales and repair. So some of these items don't apply to this specific project because this is just a filling station. No garage activity proposed and no motor vehicle sales and repair. So section 6.3. Point 1, No certificate of approval shall be issued unless the commission finds that the location is suitable for the use intended and that such location will not imperil the safety of the public. This is an existing motor vehicle fueling station. It's been in use since the late 1960s. And so we're not proposing any change in use, just an expansion of the convenience store on the property. 6.3.1.1. No new garages for the repair of motor vehicles as a primary activity shall be erected near any building or lot used for such purpose or any part of a lot within 1,000 feet in square line measurement from the nearest portion of any lot used or proposed to be used for the within stated purposes. And this one is not applicable to our specific project because we do not have a garage or motor vehicle repair use. 6.3.1.2, no gasoline pump or filling appliance shall be located within 25 feet of any lot line. And our pumps are existing, they're going to be maintained, and they are greater than 25 feet from any property line. And then our proposal for this area is to install a canopy above those pumps. 6.3.2, misrepresentation or fraud. If it is ascertained that a certificate of approval was procured by misrepresentation or fraud, the commission may, after a hearing, revoke the certificate. And we acknowledge that requirement. And 6.3.3, the fee. All applications for certificate of approval of location shall be accompanied by a fee of $300. Said fee shall be paid at the time of filing the application. This is an existing use, and we filed the application for the special permit and the according fee along with that. So that gets us through the motor vehicle fueling station requirements. And then the next section is the general special permit criteria, section 7.7.6. And I'll try and paraphrase some of these and hopefully not lose my place. But 7.7.6.1, the proposed use must be consistent with the current Norwich Plan of Conservation and Development. And this proposal is consistent with the plan. The property is located in the general commercial district, and on the planning areas map in the POCD, it's one of the second highest areas of higher development focus. The goals of the plan some of the goals of the plan are focusing on core areas and nodes. This project is near the Greenville node. Supporting economic development, the project will improve the value of the property. And managing utility infrastructure. And this project makes use of the existing infrastructure, sanitary sewer, public water, natural gas, and the state road. And then the project is also consistent with principle number 3 of the POCD to concentrate development around transportation nodes and along major transportation corridors. And Boswell Avenue is a state highway, and this is a reuse of an existing property and improvement to that existing motor vehicle fueling station on the state highway and transportation corridor. 7.7.6.2, the location and size of the site, the nature and intensity of the operations involved in or conducted in connection with the use, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it must be such that the use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development in the district in which it is located and will promote the welfare of the city. So our development makes use of the existing curb cuts on Berkeley Road and Boswell Avenue. So no change to traffic patterns on the property or on the streets surrounding it. And I briefly discussed before the fueling delivery turning movements, and they're able to access the fuel tanks without conflict with the pumps and also without crossing the double yellow lines on Boswell Avenue. So the property is suitable for access and traffic concerns at its current location. Also has adequate site distances in either direction on the state road. We have site distance for the 85th percentile speed of 45 miles per hour, and the speed limit in this area is 30 miles per hour. 7.7.6.3, the design elements of the proposed development must be attractive and suitable in relation to the site characteristics, the style of other buildings in the immediate area, and the existing and probable future character of the neighborhood in which it is to be located. It's located in the general commercial zone. It's abutted by commercially zoned and commercially used properties. And it's a great improvement over the existing conditions with the new colonial style Cape building and the landscape buffers instead of the stockade fences that are currently located around the property. 7.7.6.4, the location, nature, and height of buildings, walls, and fences, and the nature and extent of planned activities and landscaping on the site must be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land or buildings or impair the value thereof. This is, as I mentioned before, an improvement on the existing condition and does not negatively impact the surrounding commercial developments. And it's not a negative impact to the neighborhood since it improves this property greatly. 7.7.6.5. The proposed use or activity must have no adverse effect upon the neighboring area resulting from the use of signs, exposed artificial lights, colored lights of any nature, flashing lights, loudspeakers, or other noise-making devices. We included the lighting plan demonstrating there was no light trespass onto the abutting properties. And as mentioned before, the existing sign is going to be maintained and reused after the development is complete. 7.7.6.6, in cases where it is proposed to convert a structure designed and built originally for other uses, the structure must be adaptable to the proposed use from the point of view of public health and safety. It's not applicable to this project as there's no proposed change in use, just a new convenience store on the property. 7.7.6.7, the design, location, and specific details of the proposed use or activity must not adversely affect safety in the streets, nor unreasonably increase traffic congestion in the area, nor interfere with the pattern of vehicular circulation in such a manner as to create or worsen unsafe traffic conditions. And as I mentioned, the existing traffic patterns will be maintained. The fuel delivery vehicles have no problem accessing the fuel tanks or leaving the site, and there is adequate site distance in either direction for vehicles to safely enter and exit the site. 7.7.6.8, parking areas or areas must be of adequate size for the particular use and suitably screened from adjoining residential uses, and entrance and exit drives must be laid out so as to prevent traffic hazards and nuisances. Zoning compliant parking areas have been provided. The parking calculation for the convenience store is 8.4 spaces required and 9 are provided on the property. And there's a new landscape buffer going in along these parking spaces that face the wooded area to the west of the property. And then the other properties to the north, south, and east across Boswell Avenue are all commercial properties. 7.7.6.9, streets, drives, or other right-of-ways must be of such size, condition, and capacity to adequately accommodate the traffic to be generated by the particular proposed use. And this is an existing use. We're proposing to expand the convenience store. The existing Boswell Avenue is adequate for any traffic that could come from this site, and we have the site distances and the space for turning movements needed. 7.7.6.10, the provisions for water supply, sewage disposal, and stormwater drainage must conform to accepted engineering practices, comply with all standards of the appropriate regulatory authority, and must not unduly burden the capacity of such facilities. The site's going to make use of the existing public water and sewer, and there's not going to be a significant increase in demand or flow over what was there before. It's still a relatively small building with 1 bathroom. And from a stormwater perspective, the site is great improvement over what was there before with the addition of the rain garden for retaining 1 inch of runoff from the clean runoff surfaces of the canopy and the new building roof. Also, overall on the site, there's a reduction of impervious area by 3,000 square feet. So that reduces the overall runoff leaving the site as well. 7.7.6.11, the proposed use or activity must provide easy accessibility for fire apparatus and police protection and must be laid out and equipped to further the provision of emergency services. The site's accessible for these emergency vehicles. The fueling delivery trucks are able to access it, and fire apparatus will as well. And we did receive a letter from the fire marshal stating that he had reviewed the plans and had no concerns with the proposed site plan. 7.7.6.12, appropriate consideration shall be given to the protection, preservation, and or enhancement of natural, scenic, historic, and unique resources, including where appropriate, the use of conservation restrictions to protect and permanently preserve natural, scenic, historic, or unique features which enhance the character and environment of the property. This is right now about 68% of the property is pavement, and it's currently developed. Dan had noted in his memo that it is an area of moderate historical significance. So we added some notes to the demolition sheet regarding what the contractor should do if they encounter any historic resources on the property, and notifying the planning department. But given the use of the property and its long-term developed status, we don't expect that anything will be encountered. And finally, 7.7.6.13, adequate provision must be made for the sustained maintenance of the proposed development. And these will be maintained by the property owners. And this project could even be looked at as maintenance of the property, providing significant improvements to it. And it hasn't seen this type of investment in many, many years. That takes us through the special permit criteria and how this proposed development meets those criteria. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm available for any questions.
Anybody, any members of the commission have any questions for Mr. McKay?
And can you just explain to me the term rain garden?
Yes, yeah, it's basically just a shallow depression that's going to be seeded with a wildlife conservation seed mix, so it doesn't need to be mowed. And all it will do is the roof drains will be connected to it. And if there's less than 1 inch runoff from the roofs, it'll stay on the site and infiltrate into the ground. If there's greater than 1 inch runoff, it'll flow through the riprap swale and into the drainage system. Basically, it just provides an area to store that 1 inch of runoff on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Dan, do you want to take it from here then?
Sure, Frank, there's, I believe, a number of members from the public. I don't know if you want to take comment from the public first.
Yeah, I guess we can do that. So are there members of the public who wish to speak in favor of the application? Or can we tell that with this Zoom going? Do you just want to bring them up one at a time and they can speak either for or against? Just
I think
we'll
it's
note
better.
it.
I think it's better.
So, yeah, why don't you take them in the order that they're here, Dan? We'll listen to the public right now.
Yeah, I believe first would be Michelle's iPhone.
Okay,
And if she could say her name on the record and her address, if she's local, please.
yeah, and please spell your name.
Hi, my name is Michelle Alvarez. We here for 24 Berkeley Road. And my current address is 42 Allen Avenue in Norwich. I'm here for Alberto Hernandez. He's the owner for the property.
Michelle, could you please spell your last name for us?
Yes, last name is Alvarez, and I'm here for Alberto Hernandez. It's a Hernandez.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead and tell us what you want to tell us at this point. Or if you have any questions, you can ask questions too.
Well, I don't have any question at this moment.
Okay. Did you want to speak?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Is there any member of the public who wants to be heard on this application one way or the other?
There's two other people. One is Danica Dallum.
Okay, you want to,
I'm here on behalf of the next agenda item.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
and
And then
anybody,
there's also a telephone number that is 401-218-7987.
Yeah, Dan, that's me. That's Darren Haywood from CLA Engineers,
Okay.
addressing the agenda item as well.
all right, great.
Okay, so I think that's it, Frank.
Okay, so we don't have any other members of the public then who wish to comment on this application at this time. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so given that then, if you want to give us your presentation, and I understand from talking with you earlier, Dan, that you'd like to waive the reading of the exhibits and waive the reading of the conditions that are contained in your memo if the commission chooses to adopt that. So if we could have a motion to do those waivers.
Oh, you can't do that yet because you still have to take his information and then you have to close the public hearing too before you make decisions.
Okay, but I mean, I think we can decide to waive those things
Oh,
now.
All right,
I'm not looking for a decision.
okay.
So if somebody could just address those waivers now, and then we can move into the rest of it.
Then I so move.
All right, so motion by Michael
Yeah, I'll second.
and seconded by Les. Any discussion at all? Hearing none, then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those, the reading of conditions, if we adopt Dan's memo, are going to be waived, and the reading of the exhibits are going to be waived. And at this point, then, Dan, you can go through the rest of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Dave, thank you. I was going to ask you for that.
You're welcome.
So I'll just quickly go through my memo. I will note that we had forwarded to a number of city departments comments that came in. They've all been addressed satisfactorily. The Wetlands Commission approved the application on April 7th. The E&S bond was approximately $4,000. Dave already showed you had placed that letter on the cover sheet. Would ask that the letter from tonight, if you choose to approve it, be placed on the cover sheet as well. We're asking that they submit all applicable FEMA flood certificates to demonstrate compliance after construction has been completed prior to issuing of zoning certificates. We did get the card copies of the mailings, which we should have mentioned before we opened the public hearing, but we're good there. Dave already spoke to the moderate sensitivity area for archaeological resources. The zoning officer will have to review the signage canopy for compliance. They did already add directional pavement markings to the plan. And Dave just went through a lengthy description of all of the special permit criteria that they met. I will note there's a typo in my memo. It should mention zoning regulation section 3.4, not 3.3. And I would ask that if someone does make a motion to approve this, they would include all the comments and conditions from my memo. I have a suggested reason for approval here, and I would just ask that you add chapter 3.4 to this list that you see on your screen now.
Okay,
as Deanna mentioned, we need to close the public hearing. I will also show, this is the exhibit list that I asked you to waive reading.
yes,
So it's in the record on the video recording, and I'll provide it to Melinda as well.
okay, at this
Dan?
point,
Oh,
do you have anything further, Dan?
Can I just add something to Dan? Two more things that we wanted to have in the exhibit list is the legal notices, Dan, that went out on this, just to, and then
Yep.
and the agendas, the cancellation notices that showed that the dates were fine. I just want to add that in the inland wetlands letter. So I'm just going to add those as 18 and 19 on here, okay? So
Okay.
Melinda, that'll be on there too.
Okay.
I'll update that before I send that to you, Melinda.
Anything else we need to do before we close the public hearing? No,
No.
so if we could have a motion then to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed, and we can move to this matter for action at this time. So does the commission wish to make any motions in connection with the application?
Before we get to that, do we have to make separate motions that they meet the criterion for building in a floodway, or the criterion for getting the certificate of location for the
No.
gasoline station?
And then no, and I'll tell you why, is because the gas station one is actually somewhat irrelevant because it's already a gas station. So they're really here because of the special flood hazard area. Because their
Okay.
square footage is less than the 5,000 square feet and those kind of things if they're for the expansion. So for a building, so they would really, if that was not in the special flood hazard area, you wouldn't be seeing this application.
Okay.
Okay,
And I think that's covered under that section 3.4.
Mhm.
So which
we wanna add
we've
to the
added
reasons.
or want to add to the reasons for the proposal conforming.
Okay.
So did you make a motion for approval, Mike, or just had a question?
I can make the motion to approve the application with a finding that the proposal conforms to the zoning regulations sections, chapter 2.5, 3.4, 5, 7.5, and 7.7, subject to the conditions as outlined in the memorandum, the reading of which was waived.
Ask him about the first number. Mike, where did you get the 2 point something number you said?
2.5.
Um,
I'm just asking where, I mean, because I'm looking at Dan's memo on the screen right now, and it's that suggestion reasons has section 5, 6.3, 7.5, 7.7, and we wanted to add 3.4. So we weren't sure where you added that. other
Okay,
number.
so those numbers, I think I'm looking at the Salem
Okay.
Turnpike one.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
So with the notation that the motion conforms to the zoning regulations as set out in Dan's memo plus section 3.4.
Yep.
All right, so Les, can we have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, so we have the motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
All the conditions from Dan's memo. too.
Yeah, I think Mike just said that.
Okay,
So hearing no further discussion, then all in favor of the motion as put forth?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so therefore the application is approved, subject to all the conditions set forth in Dan's memo and as part of the motion. Okay, thank you. And
Thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McKay, for your excellent presentation. Took us right through it. Thank you. All right, so that matter being dealt with, the next matter on the agenda is special permit number 22-02, 208 Salem Turnpike to 10 Salem Turnpike and 11 Montville Road. This is a request for special permit for a self-storage rental facility and associated site improvements. The application of Lyman Development Corporation, property of Owen Nagunset Inc. I think I said that right. Assessor's map 121, block 2, lots 22, 23, and 24, zone PC. So if we could have, this is another public hearing. I guess we would need a motion to open the public hearing on this matter then.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is open. Is there somebody here to speak on behalf of this motion, this application?
I'll start. This is Tom Cummings with CLA Engineers
All right, thank you, Tom.
and at 317 Main Street in Norwich. And Dan, if all I need is the either the site plan or the yeah, I don't know. That's to introduce the site. I don't know if everybody knows where this site is between the Walmart's parking lot and the Federal Credit Union. And it's had the Ron Lyman sign on the front of it for the last 17 years anyway. And we've been looking at it for 17 years, trying to find anything that could, it's a long, narrow lot that would work on the lot. And the restaurants, we look for lots and lots of things because it has access to Montville Road. We also tried to deal with Walmart to use their parking lot, that back parking lot, to support a building, which was really no go. So after looking at this thing for 17 years, Ron saw a self-storage, climate controlled self-storage in building in Old Saybrook. And it's on the very similar conditions, very similar site, a long thin site that sloped away from the road. And the use just uses the site. It has very low traffic requirement, and it just fit the whole site very well. So it just seems to be the way to go. And for the specifics on the project, Darren Haywood in my office will take it from here. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. So Darren, can I ask to share my screen?
Sure, Darren, go right ahead.
Okay, can everyone see the plan in front of them?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so as Tom mentioned, the site's located at a number of parcels, actually 208 and 210 Norwich Turnpike and Montville Road in Norwich, Connecticut. And it comprises about 1.8 acres of undeveloped vegetated land. It's bordered to the north by Norwich Turnpike, to the east by Core Plus Credit Union Bank, and to the south and west by Walmart Shopping Plaza. The site's currently clear cut, as you can see, and drains from the north to the south at moderate slopes. And the stormwater runoff currently enters a small area of wetland, the south part of the site, before entering a culvert and discharging on the east side of Montville Road. The proposed project includes a new 3-story self-storage building with associated parking. Access to the development will be from the north, from Salem Turnpike. And vehicles may enter the site from this location and exit the site. There's a one-way access road that goes along the entire east side of the building. It was locally widened to 20 feet at the request of the fire department. We have an access point into the building at this point here, in the middle of the building and at the rear of the building here. And there's a one-way exit leaving the site on Montville Road at this location here. Connecticut DOT have approved this driveway. There's more than adequate sight lines along 82 being on the outside of the curve here. And we have received approval from the Inland Wetland Commission, sorry, on April 7th. And we've also had comments on the city engineer, Brian Long, the zoning enforcement officer, Richard Chuck, and assistant planner, Darren Danaska, and those have all been addressed in this plan set that you're viewing now. These are the colored elevations of the building. I forgot to mention that we do have Danica Dallin, the architect. She's been able to call in. I can briefly go over the building's materials, but if there's any more specific questions regarding the building, I would kindly refer to her. So this is a 3-story building,
Yeah, if you could.
although from the, excuse me?
Did you hear, Deanna asked if you would please go over the building materials.
Okay, I can try and do that. So the building materials would be a mix of stone veneer, exterior insulation finish system, commonly known as an EIFS system, and board and batten siding. These materials will be arranged and designed to provide a contemporary design that mimics a classical agriculture building, which is the move-in storage brand aesthetic. So the company that will eventually run this development will be the move-in self-storage company. So the colors of the materials, as you can see, are earth tones. The natural stone is a medium mixed tone of browns. And the main area of the EIFS system is a tan buff color with some cedar red accents. The board and batten siding is a darker tan color. And standing seam metal roof is in the cedar red, is proposed as an accent at the office entrance. All the windows will be
The west
aluminum.
elevation, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. The west elevation is the front elevation from the road, correct?
It is. So all you'll see from the road is a single level where the middle and the lower level will be subsurface at that elevation at that point.
Thank you for clarifying.
The windows are all going to be aluminum storefront system, typical of retail facilities, and they will be in a medium bronze color. The building's going to be designed to meet current energy code requirements, be fully temperature controlled, and be fully sprinklered to meet life safety emergency egress requirements. And there'll be stair towers connecting all levels for emergency egress and elevators for full accessibility of the facility. Are there any more questions you'd like to ask about the materials?
Not for me, thank you. I just wanted to clarify those elevations. Thank you.
These are the design plans that were submitted. They have been revised to include the wetland approval letter here. I'll briefly run through these. This is basically the existing condition survey, stamped and signed by our licensed surveyor. Site plan, we've seen this. but basically there's enough spaces here for 12 cars. I believe the requirement was for 12 cars, 12 spaces, including ADA accessibility for vans and cars.
Could you talk a little about the landscaping?
We can get to that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. we do. Thanks.
Yes, this is just to show the general site plan, just the on-site traffic movements on the site and dimensions of the parking spaces and so forth. This is the erosion and sediment control plan. This is what needs to be done in advance of the construction. There'll be a temporary sediment trap at the downstream end of the site to capture all the sediment runoffs during construction. These are all typical details associated with that construction phase. The grading and utility plan, basically the grading will continue to run off from north to south. There is a detention basin that has been designed at the south part of the portion to capture the water quality volume. And all larger storms will discharge into the wetland area and into the drainage system across Montville Road. There will be new utilities going into the state right of way. We have a new water line feeding the building, and electricity and a sanitary sewer going to the existing tenant sewer that currently is in the street. This is the landscaping plan here. We have a variety of species of plantings at the northern part of the site. And we have some plantings around the water quality basin at the southern end of the site as well. I think there was a requirement, one of the comments was to remove some white pines at the northern part of the site, which we swapped out for another species. So that was done at the
Are the species that are out there, I'm not looking at the plan a second, just what you have on there. The species you swapped out, are those, do they have any perennials or anything that's flowering or anything that, that would enhance the streetscape there?
I'm not sure, I can check. Would that be desirable for the commission, more desirable?
I mean, it would just be a suggestion from the planning department. We didn't want the buffer trees along the front to block out the building. We didn't want pines out there, and I don't know what you replaced it with. Can you tell me what you replaced them with at least?
I will try. Let me just. I believe we replaced them with these ground junipers. That's right. I had to see this to remind myself, but the ground junipers went in.
That's good. I mean, my recommendation as the planner to the commission would be to also enhance that with perennials, because ground juniper ends up looking pretty ratty and everything gets stuck in there, leaves and garbage, and it just kind of ends up being a junk collector. I'm just being quite honest with you. It's not the most attractive landscaping in front of a building.
Okay.
So that's just my recommendation to the commission.
I have a question about the traffic in and out. Is there a reason why it's not just one way in and one way out at the back? It just seems to me taking a turn out of that onto Salem Turnpike without traffic control there is going to be dicey at best. I go in and out of Walmart occasionally, and with the traffic light there, that's reasonable, but without a traffic light, I think getting out of there seems can maybe difficult. And since you got the egress in the back, it seems to me and it's a one-way street, it would make sense just to make it one way in and one way out.
The traffic light to the west does incorporate a dedicated left-hand turn lane into the Walmart, which could be used as a refuge to make that left-hand turn lane. We did conduct a traffic study because we wanted to.
I'm not so concerned about traffic going in. I'm concerned about traffic coming out of there onto
Right.
Stone Turnpike.
Right. We have more than adequate site visibility, left and right. And I don't think the volume is going to be, there's not going to be a lot of cars coming in and out of this facility. Like I said, that the only, the saving grace is we have that left-hand turn as that can be used as a refuge while vehicles wait for traffic, eastbound traffic, to make that turn into the left-hand, to make that left turn.
I understand that. But that's not my concern, though. My concern is coming out.
I think what he's saying, Frank, I just want to clarify, when you come and take a left, you're saying that in the middle of Salem Turnpike there's sort of a refuge like lane in the middle that, so
Yes.
someone come out and basically sit out there before they get in the traffic lane. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, let me skip to another plan that just shows the sight lines with an aerial on the background. But basically, you have a single lane to negotiate from the left, and then a single one from the east. But you could use the left-hand turn lane into Walmart as that refuge before entering the.
I understand what you're saying. I still think it's a dangerous spot. Because there is a lot of traffic that comes up and down there for Walmart. And just traffic heading out to Salem or back into the city.
So if that lane got backed up, say that it's Christmas time and all these people are on that left-hand turn lane to get into Walmart, and that backs up, that left-hand lane backs up all the way in front of this entrance drive, isn't that going to make it hard for that person trying to get out of here to take a left when that lane could, in theory, be blocked with people trying to get into Walmart?
It would. If there's cars backed all the way up the entire length of that left-hand traffic, then they would be forced to sit there until that lane evacuated.
Yeah, so I guess all I'm saying is it just seems to me that it would make sense just to make that entrance an entrance only and have the exit only onto Montville Road, especially since the access road along the front of the or the side of the storage units is one way. No, that's just my thought on it.
Did you submit a traffic report with the application?
We did, yes. It went to DOT for approval as well.
All right, I'm just not seeing it in the
Oh,
exhibit.
did it get submitted by the planning application?
The
I
city,
believe,
did you submit anything to us with it? Because I don't see it with our exhibit list.
okay. The study went to DOT because they wanted to see what the traffic generation would be and its potential impact on Route 82 there. So
All right.
that went to
I do see something, DOT access response. That was what was in the record here, so.
right.
I'll look at DOT's access response. Dan, could you call that up on the computer? Do you have it in their system?
Yep, just give me a second.
He's getting it. Okay, so I'll pull it out of here.
Yeah.
Just to briefly summarize it, they found the proposal acceptable, and they're only asking for proof of town approval prior to the issuance of an encroachment permit.
I found it.
I still think it would be better with a one-way in. So, oh, why don't you go ahead and continue with your presentation? I didn't mean to interrupt you so much, but just, it seems to me from just driving that area that it would make much more sense to have that just an entrance as opposed to both entrance and exit.
Well, Frank, this is Tom Cummings.
Yeah, hi, Tom.
The Hesketh Associates, their traffic engineers, they did a report just for that, because we knew they would, to present it to DOT to allow both entrance and exit from the site. So there was a report done and it was submitted to DOT, and it was part of DOT's approval that we could use the entrance in both, exit in both directions.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just my comment, Tom, that it seems to me it would make a lot more sense just to have an entrance there, but that's just me. So anyway, if you want to continue with the presentation.
We just have some standard details, constructability details, and because we will be going into the state road, there's some standard Connecticut DOT reinstatement details. And this was the final plan. It was just showing that the sight lines are more than adequate for the entrance in this location. So that really was the end of my presentation. If the commission would like, we could go through those 13 criterias. I will leave that to the discretion of the commission whether we do that or not.
Special permit criteria, if you want them to go over that. You did submit that in writing, correct?
I did not submit that
Okay.
in writing.
All right. They probably
It's
should go
probably
over
a
it
good
then.
idea to go through the criteria so we can ascertain, that indeed those criteria are being met.
Okay, so section 7.7.6 of the Norwich zoning regulations, criteria number 1, proposed use must be consistent with the current Norwich plan of conservation and development. So our response would just be that the development is a commercial self-storage facility for residents and non-residents of Norwich, and it is cited in the planned commercial zoning district PC, and it's just a perfect use for this property. Number 2, the location and size of the site, the nature and intensity. Bear with me.
Oh, so Dan, was this submitted then? They did submit it?
I brought them up on the screen, Darren, as you're reading through them, so people can see them as well.
Okay, so there is a written response to that then.
There is, yes.
That we can
I
reference.
didn't believe I apologize. I didn't believe that these were submitted.
Okay, so since we have the written response, we don't need you to orally go through it unless some other members of the commission would like that.
I don't need them to.
Yeah, I don't either. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan, you reviewed this as far as, as part of the application, the narrative. So can you concur that they met those criteria?
Yes,
Thank you.
it's all listed in this narrative. It came with the application.
So the narrative has justification that shows that the criteria for the special permit are being met.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That being said, then is your presentation is complete then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dan, can we just go on to your presentation then?
Why don't you
Or we want to see if there's any comments from the public? Do we have any people or comments from the public, Dan?
There's nobody here, no.
Yeah, I get confused with
And
nobody
there's no one
here.
physically here in the building and with us either, just on the record.
Okay, so we have no public comment at this point on this application. And with that, I think, Dan, you can proceed with your presentation.
Sure, I'll just briefly run through my memo. We had a number of comments from different departments, city engineer, NPU, fire marshal, and the ZEO. They have all been addressed. As Darren mentioned, it was approved at Wetlands on April 7th. The approval letter is on the plan set. We'd also ask that the approval letter from tonight, if you choose to approve it, would be added. They did add the variance to the plan set. The signature blocks are now on there. We do have the mailings. The site is located in a high sensitivity area for archaeological resources, and we referred it to the Office of the State Archaeologist, and they don't think there's anything to be concerned with due to the extensive development of the area over the years. No additional work in the area or anything significant. I did have a note about the frequency of trash pickup and who will be responsible for monitoring the level of refuse in the dumpster area. If you could speak to that.
It would have to be the owner of the development, and I would imagine it would be on a weekly basis unless it was needed more frequent rota. The dumpster pack at the rear of the building, so it's not visible from the turnpike.
Are there going to be employees on site there?
Do you want me to speak to that, Darren?
Yes,
Yes.
if you know the answer, please.
Sure. This is Danica Sleeger Dallum with SAA Architects, 600 North Hartley Street, York, Pennsylvania. We have worked with developers in over 250 of these self-storage facilities, over 12 million square feet over the last 26 years. Typically, a facility of this size, it doesn't generate a lot of trash, and this particular brand, if at all possible, they prefer not to have dumpsters just because some people will empty their units out and then they have to pay to haul off what was in the units. If need be, they can have a dumpster and they would schedule regular trash pickup as required. They will have staff on site. I would say a maximum, depending on shifts, they would have a maximum of 2 staff at any one time.
So you're saying at this point, there's no plan for a dumpster on site?
There is a dumpster pad there.
Yeah, I understand that, but from what you said, it sounded like there wasn't a plan for a dumpster, that the developer would normally have a dumpster and just kind of monitored the situation.
Yeah, if they find out that they need a dumpster, they certainly will have one on site.
But would there be some kind of refuse canisters out back then? Even if there isn't a dumpster, I assume there's going to be some kind of garbage.
Typically, I was gonna
receptacle.
say, typically they control the refuse and they may have it in an individual maintenance unit. Like I said, they don't want to encourage renters to continually empty out their units and filling dumpsters.
Okay, I guess the question really from that Dan generated then is what happens with the refuse from the renters?
When there's no garbage, when there is no dumpster out there and they're cleaning it out, are they just
They're required to haul it off site.
Per their contract with the
Yes.
renters and does
And-
that,
That's
what
typically
happens-
in their lease agreement.
But what happens if they don't?
Then the management company will take care of removal.
Okay.
They're not gonna have trash like lying around on the site.
So this is a 3-story building, so is there like a storage elevator and, I mean, some sort of an elevator going to all 3 floors, and where is that
Yes.
located in the building?
Do you have the plans, Darren? Or does someone have the plans that were submitted?
I only have the elevation plan that was submitted.
You don't have the architectural?
No.
Dan, do you have the architectural plans for it?
Am I able to share my screen?
Sure.
Are you able to see that?
Yeah, yes,
So what we are proposing, this is the primary street level off 82. And this would be the office, and then there would be an access point here. We have centrally located elevators in the middle of the building and stair towers we are proposing in these two corners. So you can see it's a unit mix. The sizes vary from 5 by 5. We have some larger ones that could be 10 by 20, 10 by 30. But the centrally located elevators are accessible from all levels. This is that middle level where we have a loading and access point, so they could come in here and the elevators are immediately inside that level. So they could park here and load and unload and still access all 3 levels from this point. Or they could access at the rear here and access all of the levels. And again, so we have emergency egress out of the back corners that takes you back up to grade here.
how many units are there altogether?
They're just under 800. Typically, we will have the management company analyze the actual unit matrix prior to us finalizing the drawings for permit submission. So that may vary slightly one way or another, but we're probably fairly close.
Thank you.
Okay, you got anything else, Dan?
So the only other comment was talking about the plantings. We asked that they would install a different species of tree in the front of the property, preferably flowers or another perennial planting should be considered that Deanna already mentioned. We do have the responses to the 13 special permit criteria. Again, I would ask to waive the reading of all of these conditions, but if you make an approval motion, you would include all comments and conditions from my memo. I have suggested reasoning here. I also show the exhibit list, which needs to have the wetlands approval and the legal notices and the cancellation notices added to it.
All right, so,
Pretty much all I have.
all right,
And so can I ask the commission before we, close the public hearing? I really do think that this is a desirable place, and it's in that, it's the planned commercial over there, right, Dan? That's the planned commercial
PC, yeah.
zone.
Yep.
And I do think that since it's planned commercial, we really want to enhance the appearance of the buildings that are going there. And not having flowering landscaping or some kind of perennials, I think is unfortunate. And I think that should be considered. I think that, the type of fern that they're putting in, that it ends up being, I know it's a garbage collector at any of those properties. People whip their cans out and it sticks in there. So I really do think that when you have perennial plantings, they're not a lot of maintenance. They enhance the property, but it does require that the owner pays some attention to their landscaping. And I think that's important.
yeah, that makes sense.
So I would ask that the commission condition that along the frontage of the property, that they enhance it, the landscaping plan with perennial flowering plantings and staff can review that for adequacy.
Okay, anything else before we close the public hearing? No, hearing nothing else, can we get a motion to close the public hearing then now?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Hearing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed, and so we'll move on to action regarding this matter. Does somebody want to make a motion in connection with this?
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, so I move that the special permit 22.02 be approved with a finding that they have met the zoning requirements as set out in Dan's proposal, and that it be subject to the conditions as listed in Dan's memo, but further including that the applicant prepare a plan for perennial flowering plants and trees in the front of the building along Route 82, subject to the approval of staff.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Yeah.
And do we have a second?
Yeah, I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as proposed? Aye. All right, so the motion carries. The permit is approved with the conditions as set forth in the motion. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
You,
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, moving on. So I don't see anything under old business. I don't see any extension requests. There is a bond reduction or release request for site development plan 915 at 67 Corning Road.
Yeah, I can take that one. So I got an email from Mark Block requesting the bond release for this particular project. 67 Corning Road had originally been approved in 2005. The commission gave an approval to give them the maximum extension at some point a few years ago. And they were now expired in I think it was May of 2019. We're still holding on to a bond for that project, and they're asking for the release of it. So the reasons are SDP 915 is expired and no additional extensions can be granted. The project is done. Yep, if they want to do more there and want to build more
They have to
condos,
come
they have
back.
to come back with a brand new plan that meets today's standards. So that's what I'm looking for, a motion to release that bond.
Yeah. How much is the bond?
I believe it's $60,000, $60,000 plus dollars is the remaining bond.
So can we have a motion in regard to this bond?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the release of the bond.
Okay, motion made by Les. Do we have a
I'll second.
and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that bond is released.
Right.
And then under old or other business, we have a referral from the city council regarding an ordinance providing for the abatement of real estate taxes on real property improvements for the historic development and reuse of the Hale Mill pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 12-127A.
So we have a referral. It needs to be back to the council by June 6th, 2022 at 7:30 PM meeting. The Hale Mill owners, which you have looked at their application and their project many times, this is the hotel project. It's under the mill enhancement project to be able for the city to be able to grant an abatement of real estate taxes under that historic redevelopment reuse of the mill. So they have referred this to you for a favorable recommendation towards this abatement of the real estate taxes. And I will refer to the plan of conservation and development that states that we should capitalize on historic assets specifically to protect historic resources. And it says to help, and item number 2 of strategies is to help encourage restoration and rehab of historic properties, continue to provide tax abatements and assessment deferrals. So So that's what we are asked to do. So you have support in the city's plan of conservation development to send back a favorable referral on this abatement. So
Any questions, discussions? Somebody want to make a motion then on this referral?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to send a favorable recommendation, excuse me, on this referral.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
and
Yeah,
can
well-
may I mention the reasons why in the referral? Did I state-
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so we have the motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion carries for a favorable referral to the city council on the ordinance as read earlier.
Deanna, can you give us any idea of the status of that project? Have they been
Yeah,
doing, have they
they're-
been doing nothing, waiting for this?
no, they've been doing
No,
site
They're
work.
working down there.
So they posted their bond, so for the site, the site work, which is erosion and sediment control. And they're doing outside site work. They've been doing some work, water lines and things like that out there, but they have not done any more improvements interior because they're waiting to pay their building permit. And that's already been calculated. It's ready to go, but they don't want to pay that until they know that they're getting this abatement. So, because it works into their calculations for their financing and everything. So, this will be, as soon as this moves forward, with the council at the beginning of June, I expect that building permit to be paid and moved forward really quickly. They would like to move fairly quickly on getting that, building along. So,
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm down there all the time and there is a lot of outside work going on, a lot of work down there. so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the outside work. I was just wondering whether or not anything was really going on inside.
no,
Yeah.
they can't yet because they don't have that assessment deferral. So I'm an abatement stuff. So they want to, they don't have a building permit. So we
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Hopefully this will move it along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next matter on the agenda is the village district review for 45 to 47 Town Street signage and facade changes.
So I'll go over that really quickly. So I don't think you have the drawing. Dan, do you have the drawing of what they proposed in front of you by any chance?
I don't.
Okay, so this is the property that is adjacent to UCFS. So this is where the Florence, the Lord's major building is. What, Dan, you probably can describe it better than me.
The
The
side
Meadow-
of the Meadows Plaza that has the People's Bank at the end. It's that
Yeah,
long
I'm
building.
talking about there.
Okay,
So they,
But it's the complete opposite end from the bank.
but it's part of the plaza,
in that plaza, yeah,
right
Correct.
next to where Burger King is supposed to be.
yes.
No.
No, because
No?
Burger King has got the bank next to it.
Yeah, it's the long building that the bank is at the front end of it, that's on Town Street. It's the unit all the way at the other end towards the back of the property.
Yeah, but behind
So-
that, if you're facing that to the left is where the Burger King property is.
So,
Correct,
So-
yes.
If you're facing
yes.
it to the left.
Yes.
but
So-
the design changes on the far right over next to Lori's Deli. Is that what you're talking
No.
about?
The
No.
design,
No, the-
Dan, can you call up the GIS?
yeah, just give me a minute here.
So why don't I go over it while he's talking about this? So, so what's happening is that CFS is moving some of their clinical space into that building, the long skinny building, and they want to do some exterior changes just to that unit and to some signage to that unit. But it's in the village district, and at this point, we would like, if you're gonna make partial improvements, you should really look at everything comprehensively. So our village district consultant reviewed it because that's that building right there.
Yeah.
Does everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay, so Dan, it's approximately near the end of that building, like almost right there. So
Where
what-
Quest is, or
Yes.
next to Quest.
So Quest is gone. So
Oh, Quest is
yeah,
gone?
so that's where they're kind of moving into that space.
Oh, I see.
All
Okay.
right. So Dan, we want to go back to so they want to change some of the exterior siding. They wanted to change the signage. So our architectural consultant reviewed it and he just had some findings and recommendations. And we have encapsulated those in a little bit better notes than this whole thing, so you don't have to read it all. It is available, it's on the website. So basically, that his comments were, and we've already spoke with them about it, they are going to adhere to these recommendations, that the composite siding be extended below the existing storefront entrances of the space to the right of this application, which is, I think that was the space that Quest was in, Dan, is that right? All the way at the end? So basically, they were just to do some of it under the door and not like move it all the way over. So they said, take it to the right further. And that the siding note be approved as that Boral True Exterior nickel gap siding, which is what they're calling it, and not use the word trim. And that the siding is consistent with the manufacturer's actual product. And that the sign font color size be consistent with those that are already on the building and not depart from that design significantly for consistency with the guideline stipulations. So basically, you know, don't change it too much to at that point between those signages. Otherwise, it's fairly simple. It's not making major changes to the building. However, I will say that the bank at the end, which said was that Bank of America? What did you say, Dan?
People's.
People's
People's
Bank.
Bank is going to be another bank name. They're changing.
A and M&T.
Is that what they're gonna be, M&T?
Yeah.
So I forget, but they're now wanting different signage on their end of the building. So we're talking with them about temporarily doing some just replacements really quickly of what's already there, and then doing something more comprehensive because they're really at the front rail really of that
Yeah.
building. So even though it's piecemeal and it seems like, you know, that we're not doing it in a comprehensive fashion, this is kind of how village districts happen. You know, you're not going to get major big changes, but if you incrementally do some of these changes over a period of time, all the improvements get better. So we would ask that that the commission find deem those proposed facade changes compatible with the Norwich Village District overlay as per 3.10 with the following conditions that are stated. You don't have to read those. You can read them right now, but basically there are standards. And I just went over the two things the architect said, and that they're conforming with chapter 3 of the regulations. They would like to move forward. And if you do this tonight, they can move forward with the next steps to do that exterior enhancements.
So anybody have any questions or concerns at this point?
If I could, not a concern, just a question.
Yep.
The ones that reviewed in accordance with the village district, that's the sort of the consultant that was hired or outsourced, Silver and Petroselli.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's hired by the city to do that. Is that correct?
They are paid by the applicant. Remember, that's so the applicant pays for if there's something simple and it's like like what we're doing with the bank when it temporarily changes over, it's just does an insert and does something. But once they change the exterior of the buildings or change signage, then it kicks into being those other upgrades, and that gets paid for by the applicant.
Okay, and this is the organization that was chosen.
Yep, we went throughout, remember, we hired them. They're our consultant for Village District. Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because it didn't have anything to or froms or no signatures on the bottom or anything. So I was just curious.
Oh, yep, Silver Petroselli and Associate. Yep, they do, you know,
That's Les's Navy upbringing there.
yeah.
Absolutely.
To make sure, like, you know,
Source
they
documents.
knew the purpose that I was coming to you, and that's, I apologize. I will tell them to do the to and from and the signature, but yes, they are our consultants.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions or discussion. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I move approval on the basis of chapter 3 of the zoning regulations. That these changes are in compliance with Norristown Village District regulations.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
So we have the motion and the second.
With those conditions that were stated, correct?
I'm sorry, with the conditions that were stated in the memo.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike and Deanna. There any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion has carried and the application is approved with the conditions as set forth in the memo.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we have a reminder that there's a POCD meeting for July 13th. I assume that's going to be at 6:30. Or
I
6
think it's
o'clock?
6 o'clock, but
6 o'clock?
we have the RFP out. So this is under staff report, if we can really quickly talk staff report. So staff report, we went out to RFQ for consultants. And when does that close down this week?
Friday, the 20th.
Friday the 20th is the POCD consultant. So that's so that we'll have hopefully somebody on board. We can at least, do the interviews and those kind of things. We want to get it moving on that. And just quickly, affordable housing, we adopted the plan last night. The council did. I forwarded that on to OPM this evening before I came to this meeting. So the city is now in compliance. Well, not that we weren't, but we covered our base for at least 5 more years. YMCA did not get I think I mentioned this earlier, did not get a DECD grant for brownfields remediation, nor did we get the EPA one. We just found out this week. So we did get the community challenge money, which I believe is $2 million. Dan, is that correct?
Yes.
And so, but we were stipulated by DECD, we could not use any of that money for cleanup. Because they're the same ones that do the cleanup, and they said they didn't give us the cleanup, so they weren't going to give us that and let us use it for cleanup. So we need to be talking to Mattern and figuring out how we're going to, cover, at least work with them on that remediation stuff that needs to be done there. It may be less because there's less portions of the building that they're going to be taking down, and then, I think the estimates are a lot more higher because we didn't know at the time we put the application in if that was going to be reused or torn down. Hopefully it was. So it may not be as high as what we originally thought, but we still need to figure out some situations to assist with that. Dan, do you have anything else to add?
I don't at this time, nope.
I guess quickly, we're staffing in our office. We're still hiring many positions. So we're looking for a blight officer, blight housing. We're looking for 2 assistant building officials. I guess that's it right now, because we also have assistant zoning, assistant blight position, which I'm going to hold off on hiring that one until we get a blight officer, because that would be their assistant, and I want to make sure that they're up and running first. So so be patient with permits. If you hear complaints about, permits aren't getting done as quick, we do have a temporary building official assisting us 18 hours a week. He's great, but he's not full time for us. And so we have 1 building official, 1 zoning officer, and no one in blight right now in housing code. So it's been very overwhelming. So be patient.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else have any other business or to come up at this time?
I don't.
Okay, in that case, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys, for participating. Finally got the quorum this month and able to get some business done. So thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank
And
you.
hope-
Thanks,
hopefully
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
And hopefully we can find some new people.
Yes,
Yeah,
if you have
yeah.
friends, Frank has, but if anyone else has friends and they want to get the word out, please do, especially if you know that they are going to be attentive and good members, you know what I mean? People want to volunteer, but they, if they're not going to be committed, it doesn't help. So we need some